Last week, we discussed the early days of uniforms in Scouting America. We examined the early development of the uniform and its evolution from the high-collared jacket, breeches, and campaign hats of 1910 to the introduction of the garrison cap and more comfortable and versatile uniforms found in the 1960s. Before we continue our march through the uniforms of the 1970s to the present day, I wanted to share this passage from James E. West, as featured in a 1920 Sigmund Eisner pamphlet, The Official Boy Scout Leader Uniform.
The Scout uniform is a part of the romance of Scouting. It is a symbol of the ideal of conduct and outdoor activity for which the movement stands. It has the picturesque touch which helps the Scout to identify himself with the great traditions of our outdoorsman, pioneer, and explorer, scout and cowboy, which underlies the psychology of Scouting. Its specifications call for such durability and strength as only a Scout's strenuous and prepared life requires. Unfortunately, not all of our Scout officials are conscious of these values in the official uniform. Where they are understood and put into practice, the uniform plays a definite part in developing troop spirit, troop activity, and community consciousness. It has delighted me to note on several occasions recently that there is growing up in the Scout field an appreciation of these values, and especially the value of the official uniform and official regulations for wearing it in all public appearances of the troop. A troop that appears in official uniform, neckerchiefs correctly worn, similarity in stockings, shoes, and scout hats, is able to touch the civic pride and consciousness of the community as no troop, however excellent its scouting is otherwise, can hope to do if it appears at public functions, with glaring differences in the uniforms worn. One of the unwritten laws of Scouting, and one which we as leaders instinctively follow, is that a Scout respects the traditions and regulations of the movement. I am happy that a sentiment is growing up calling for greater respect for the official regulations of the movement and use of the official uniform. Every Scout should be encouraged to get an official uniform, to learn the correct way in which it is worn, and to do everything he can to promote respect and understanding from others for its fundamental values.
So now it's time to jump into the last 50 or so years of Scouts BSA uniforms in this edition of Artifact of the Week. Scouting reached its peak in the early 1960s. Membership was growing, the program was known for its outdoor skills, and the image of the Boy Scout was deeply rooted in adventure, patriotism, community service, and of course, the uniform. However, the 1960s were also a period of significant cultural, political, and social transformation in America. As the 1960s came to a close, people became concerned that the traditional look and feel of the program might not resonate with the youth of tomorrow. In response, the BSA launched what became known as the Improved Scouting Program. It was a radical redesign of the program intending to make Scouting more relevant, urban, and aligned with the contemporary interests of the next generation of Scouts. Many classic requirements like pioneering, tracking, and advanced camping were removed or softened. Scouts could advance through the ranks with community-oriented or urban-centric activities rather than focusing on outdoor achievements. The 1972 handbook intentionally minimized wilderness skills and added sections on topics like environmentalism, consumer awareness, and family life. Marketing materials tried to portray Scouting as more hip and less old-fashioned. The BSA hoped these changes would appeal to boys growing up in cities and suburbs during an era of social upheaval. The uniform also went through a dramatic redesign. From 1910 to 1960s, BSA uniforms were brown, coffee, or tan in color. Starting in 1946, the uniform color became darker and included more green than the previous color schemes. Most, if not all, official publications referred to the uniform color as khaki. These uniform colors varied widely due to variations in dye lots, harsh soaps, and washing techniques of the day. In 1972, these shades of khaki were replaced with a lighter olive green shade. In addition to the color, the fine twill material introduced in the 1940s, as well as the heavy cotton and wool uniforms, were replaced with lightweight polyester blend fabrics designed to be easier to care for. The look had a more civilian and less military feel. Neckerchiefs became optional, shorts were shorter than in previous versions, and the long pants lost their red piping and buttons on the front pockets. For Scouts who chose shorts, there were knee-high socks and elastic garters with green tabs to help complete the look. For headgear, the offerings were expanded from just the garrison or overseas cap and the campaign hat to now include a green baseball-style cap and a red beret, which became one of the most recognizable symbols of 1970s scouting. Now, full disclosure, this was my area of youth scouting. Although the neckerchief was officially considered optional, I always wore one because the shirt was collarless and I thought it looked horrible without a collar. In hindsight, well, it really wasn't much different than a baseball uniform. Even though the baseball uniform had a trim around the collar that gave it a more complete feel. But to my young mind, that collarless shirt looked incomplete, and a neckerchief gave me peace of mind that I wasn't a complete dork. I also sported the red beret, as I thought it also looked cool. I also had the advantage of learning how to wear a beret from the adults who were in the military and volunteered with our troop. If you wore it correctly, it was a nice piece of headgear. If you didn't, well, you looked like a disenfranchised Pizza Hut worker. The improved scouting program turned out to be a complete failure. Many longtime leaders, volunteers, and parents felt that scouting had completely abandoned its essence. Membership dropped sharply through the 1970s. Scoutmasters complained that the advancement required little real skill. Older scouts disengaged. New recruits didn't connect with the modernized identity the BSA was trying to create. The new uniform design fared no better, as complaints about its cheap appearance and lack of durability began to emerge shortly after the uniform was introduced. By 1979, the improved scouting program and the updated uniform were on their way out the door. In 1979, Greenbar Bill came out of retirement and volunteered his time to rewrite the Boy Scout Handbook, where he restored the outdoor program as a core component of the Boy Scout program. There was a renewed focus on camping, hiking, and survival skills. Merit badge requirements were strengthened and skill testing became more rigorous. There was also a re-emphasis on leadership development through the patrol method. As for the uniform, well, its transformation actually began in 1978 when the BSA hired world-renowned fashion designer Oscar de la Renta to redesign the uniform. And he delivered with a stylish return to tradition. De la Renta's designs were sharper and more structured, introducing crisp lines and modern tailoring. He also introduced epaulets with removable shoulder loops. For troops, the shoulder loops were red when the uniform was introduced. The De La Renta uniform also revived the neckerchief as a point of identification and history for troops, although the debate still rages today over whether the neckerchief should be over the collar or under the collar of the shirt. Pants in the De La Renta uniform were a dark khaki green with cargo pockets on each leg and no flaps on the back pockets. The De La Renta uniform also addressed one of the biggest complaints about the 1970s uniform, durability, with the new fabric blend holding up better to rugged outdoor use. The Oscar de la Renta uniform, subject to a few minor updates, including improved performance fabrics and modernized elements such as hats, shorts with cargo pockets initially and later without cargo pockets, socks, and belts, became one of the longest-running uniform designs in the history of scouting in America. In 2008, the red shoulder loops were replaced with forest green loops to represent the Boy Scout program, and a new green visored cap with an embroidered tenderfoot emblem on the front came into play. The Oscar de la Renta uniform lasted from 1980 until the Centennial uniform was introduced in 2008. To celebrate the 100th anniversary of Scouting America, the uniform underwent an intensive modernization at that time. The new Centennial uniform featured moisture-wicking fabrics, making it suitable for outdoor adventures. While the epaulets were retained, the shirt pockets went from flat to bellows designs with Velcro closures replacing buttons. Shoulder pockets were placed on the sleeves of shirts and long-sleeve shirts as well, and the long-sleeve shirts had Swiss tabs and outside loops to hold the sleeves when rolled up. The American flag was woven rather than embroidered, and the Boy Scouts of America identification was a heat transfer application which was prone to falling off of the shirt over time. The green visor cap was updated in 2015 with the embroidered tenderfoot being replaced by a 3D emblem. A major feature of the pants produced starting in 2006 was the switchback style, which allowed the bottom half of the pant leg to be removed, easily converting the pants to shorts. Two other features of the pants that changed over time were the addition of flaps to the rear pockets, which began in 1999. Additionally, cargo pockets began to appear in the 1980s, and these were flat and had a button closure. While you could slip thin items into these pockets, they were mostly for decorative purposes. In 1999, these were replaced with small, almost square cargo pockets, which in my opinion were nearly useless. In 2008, the most useful cargo pocket was introduced. They were large and could actually be used to transport items successfully. These pants were available until 2020. There was another style of switchback pants that featured two large front hip pockets, but items carried would slap against the front of the leg while walking and could quickly become uncomfortable. The Centennial uniform was designed to emphasize practicality and responsiveness to the organization's active outdoor focus. The next major change to the uniform occurred in 2019, when girls were allowed to join Scouts BSA troops. New shorts, skirts, and roll-up pants were introduced to provide uniform options for the girls. The pants can be worn at full length or rolled up to capri length, depending on the Scout's preference. Shirts were also simplified, with the pocket removed from the sleeves and the Velcro closures for the pockets replaced with a hidden button. The problematic heat transfer Boy Scouts of America was replaced with an embroidered BSA and tenderfoot emblem. The shirt has also gone through a series of innovations over the years, including vented sides and backs, and recently a new shirt with a very large hidden pocket with its opening parallel to the front buttons became available. Now this pocket is large enough to hold a Scout handbook inside of it, although I don't see that as really practical given the book's weight. While this has not been a comprehensive change-by-change view of all the Scouts BSA uniform options, I hope it's provided you with a solid foundation for understanding how the uniform has changed over the last 115 years. Before we go, last week, James Lehman of Laytonsville, Maryland, commented on part of one of the videos, and he wrote, "Now to find my copy of Matching Mountains with the Boy Scouts Uniform by Edward Reimer, 1929. Now, not being familiar with this book, I immediately checked the Seton Memorial Library to see if we had a copy. I would like to leave you with this brief reading from Chapter 1.
Before a boy actually gets inside the coveted Boy Scout uniform, he dreams many dreams about it. These dreams hang pictures on the walls of his mind and heart. They paint his heroes for him and make him want to be like them. Now, where does the boy get his ideas of his heroes? Sometimes his heroes came to him in the pictures which he discovered. Sometimes he learned to know his heroes when his mother read aloud to him. Sometimes he met his heroes in his play. Then, a little older, he played the part himself. Now a knight in suit of mail defending a fair lady, now Robin Hood in his famous wood, now Daniel Boone, pioneering and outwitting the red men, now the Indian, slipping like silent shadows through fragrant forests, now another Washington, surveyor, woodsman, and general, and now in turn donning the uniform of the soldier, sailor, engineer, fireman, policeman, band leader, and dreaming of one other uniform which a boy might wear if only he were 12 and clad in the sturdy, wholesome suit of the Boy Scouts of America. Sometimes he met his heroes when adventuring with a map, and many times the boy met his heroes when he read his books. The boy we are talking about was more fortunate. His books became another Aladdin's lamp, and he knew the storied Arabian Nights, the stir and the excitement of Treasure Island, the unending fascination of Robinson Crusoe, which he read again and again, and which he still reads, which made him wish he could have his own island and a visiting card like this. The Epic of Mount Ararat, which caught the Ark, which held the most remarkable menagerie the world has ever known. The year after year after year march of a nation through the wilderness under the masterly leadership of General Moses, who gave the world the basis of its laws. the story of a carpenter's son whose plane and chisel have shaped the destinies of the earth and told us all how to live in favor with God and with man. The rise of the nation which built the pyramids with their secret rooms and the sealed lips of the Sphinx still keeping guard over the valley of the Nile. The records of beauty in the thought and life of ancient Greece, the tramping of the overpowering armies of old Rome, the shaping of the nations of the continent of Europe, the glittering hosts of the Crusades, the search for the new world across the seas, the making of the new nation of America, and Washington and Boone and the Leatherstocking Tales and Lincoln and Lee and Roosevelt and Pershing and Baden-Powell and West, and the vast host of hundreds of thousands of natural everyday boys, learning that life is a game to be played and discovering that the khaki uniform of scouting stands for the way to do this surely, easily, and happily. Here then, in your hands as you read, is a book of the greatest possible adventure for boys today. The secret of this modern adventure is found inside the uniform of the Boy Scouts of America. Sir Robert Baden-Powell, the chief scout of the world, drew this picture for English boys to tell them the natural parallel between chivalry and scouting, and the parallel belongs to the American boy too. This book tells some of the secrets of the hidden treasure in scouting. Much of this treasure will be a surprise to you. Many schoolboys will also discover in these pages ideas and helps for projects in their classrooms, for composition work, and for oratorical contests. But boys all over the country will find something else in these pages. They will see the march of the uniform through the ages. They will follow the scout uniform in its change from colorless gray goods to captivating khaki, and see a boy bubbling over with happiness, getting inside that uniform and gaining badges and buttons and insignia of honor and progress, and growing a soul at the same time. And they will dream a great dream which someday will come true, and their earth will be filled with music, and their sky will be filled with stars, for on the inside of that character uniform of the Scouts, the boy will find himself.
Edward Reimer was on the national editorial staff for the Boy Scouts of America from 1926 to 1928. When Matching Mountains was published in 1929, it was the only work on the uniform authorized by the Boy Scouts of America. Now next week, we'll jump into the uniforms of Sea Scouts, Air Scouts, Senior Scouts, Explorers, and Venturing. But that's all the time we have for this week. Join us next time as we continue to learn more about the history of Scouting America through the collection of the National Scouting Museum and Artifact of the Week.